Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Here we are on July. What day is this, son?
July 25th,
25th,
2025.
2025. I'm Robert DeShiel along with Hassan Barnes, and we're here again with another episode of Money, Power, or Politics. And I believe that last week we indicated that we would today continue our conversation with Dr. Robert Turner, the pastor at Empowerment Temple of Baltimore, on the issue of reparations. However, Reverend Turner has been called, if you will, to preach down at the National Harbor this morning at 11 o'clock. And even he uh, was not able, spiritually or otherwise, to be in two places at one time. So today we're going to be joined remotely by the owner of one of the most successful businesses in Baltimore, who happens to be Black. His name is Robert Harrington. His company is R.E. Harrington and Sons Plumbing and Heating. While we're waiting for him to join us remotely, I'm going to review very briefly just some of the top issues that you may be interested in. Hassan will jump in with anyone that strikes his fancy, so to speak. I see on the news today, we have several things going on. We have the Department of Justice is going to interview Jeffrey Epstein's partner, Ghislaine, whatever her name is, Maxwell.
Ghislaine
Maxwell. Now, you say, well, that sounds like they're trying to get to the truth of the matter. Of course, they really aren't. But even more, it is extremely unusual for an attorney to interview a witness, because what the witness says, hopefully, may be used as evidence in the proceeding. And with the attorney doing the interview, the attorney could become a witness, which you never want to happen.
Well, no, but so Bob, for this case is interesting. The Trump administration has been under fire because of Epstein files. Part of their platform when they came into office was they want to release the files and tapes and dossiers and people who were linked to Epstein. So we've seen an internal struggle, whether with Pam Bondi, with the FBI, head of the FBI, Patel. Initially, there was a statement made by Pam Bondi that she had the names and the information for the Epstein files on her desk. She did a roundabout saying, "Oh, I didn't really mean on my desk. What I said was I had the documents on my desk with Dr. King's files and JFK's files. I didn't really mean the names, and I just said I was going to look at it and see."
Right.
The issue that people are having is now the administration is pulling back on their stated claim that they were going to release the information, and people in the conservative movement, primarily young people, want to know what's going on, and they're not buying the fact that they don't have the names. There's been suggestion that our president name is in those documents, and there's allegedly a cover up. So the reason they're interviewing Maxwell, because they may want to find a way to get her out of jail. Because she's in jail, she's in prison for something they have no records of, basically. So by them saying there's no Epstein files, that meant what did she get found guilty of? How was she convicted of a crime for which there's no evidence that actually exists?
Well, that also, I hate to bore the viewers with a lot of this legalese, but that also relates to the Trump administration's request for release of the grand jury testimony, something that it's rarely, if ever, done, and something they knew wasn't going to happen anyway. And not only that, but we wouldn't have had any reason to believe that that testimony, which was focused exclusively on Ghislaine and on Maxwell and Epstein, would answer the question of where's the list? Where's the list? And now we also have some evidence that Trump's name is indeed there, and that's in addition to the Christmas card or post-birthday card or whatever it was when Trump said to Epstein, let's keep our secret or something to that effect. I don't think anybody in the free world of reasonable mind believes that there's anything going on here other than a cover-up. And if you connect the dots, which even Ray Charles could see, the dots, the path it leads directly to Trump and his association with Epstein and the young girls, many of whom allegedly are underage, that they pirated over to Epstein's private island, where they were able to victimize them over many, many, many years.
Let me ask you this, Bob, before you go on. This case has been going on for years. This case has led people suspect to Bill Gates' divorce. It was found out that he was on the list and he
Right.
had been to the island multiple times.
Right.
We talked about Clinton going to the island. So we know people who've been to the island. So for them to say there's no list seems a bit. I thought the list then came out, to be honest. I'm like, oh, I thought we already knew. One of the royal family, but is no longer involved in the royal family because he was with Epstein. So I thought we knew very solidly who was on the island. Beyond that, it's an island, which means people fly there, which means they're manifest for planes as to who went to the island. So when we say there's no list, I think they're being coy. I don't know if Trump is the same president who ran on grabbing pussies, as he said, and has been a philanderer his whole life. I don't know why he would be concerned about being on the list. It doesn't make sense to me that people know who he is. They still voted for him. They still like him.
Well, that's the real question is, will this put a dent in the armor? Will this show that he's not like Gotti? He's not really the Teflon Don. But indeed, there is some element in his support, some group within his support area that actually is concerned about truth and concerned about whether or not he is willing to tell it. But I think that what they were looking for was something that they could hang on the Democrats. I think that the lure of the list to Trump supporters was that this list is going to have names on it like Bill Clinton and other prominent Democratic figures that they could use to hammer, because his base, if you look at it, is not founded on what he can do for them. It's founded upon what they can use against somebody else. It's the evil Democrats. So as long as you feed us the red Democrats as red meat, we don't really care whether you give us anything to put in our pocket, in our pot, so to speak. We don't really care if we're the ones who lose our health care and coverage as a result of Medicaid cuts. We don't really care if you add $13 trillion to the national debt. We don't care about any of that, as long as you keep feeding us Democrats as red meat. And this may be the first evidence that maybe they're changing, and for once in their life start to actually think about something in reasonable and rational terms. Talking about reasonable and rational, what do you think about this deal that Columbia University cut to give Trump, to pay him off with $200 million, I think it is, so that he restores their access to funding that they need to support their students?
I think we're seeing in real time. When I was a young person, I was always taught, do good and work hard and you'll do well. The reality is people who have means recognize you got to pay to play. And they are treating our president very transactional. One thing from him, they offer money. They don't offer reason. They don't offer good deeds. They offer money. That's been, and by not only here, but other countries. Yeah. And they want something from him, like Qatar, like, hey, we'll give you a brand new plane. It's so over the top, and it's so, we haven't seen this now. So I haven't seen it in my lifetime. I doubt you've seen it either, Bob, that people can be bought and paid, but there's nobody behind closed doors. They're not out in the open. They're openly saying, hey, how much you want? We'll give it to you. Give us back our stuff. How much you want? 100 million? Okay. I mean, whether it's been Colombia, whether it's been foreign countries, whether it's been the news publications who settled with him for millions of dollars for things that they shouldn't have settled for. Paramount. It's been more than Paramount. I think CBS. There's been quite a few that settled with him for cases like, why are you bringing suit? That makes sense.
Prior to the late night host,
Colbert,
yeah.
So people are openly bending the knee, but they're also being very transactional. President Trump is doing this show, Money, Power, Politics. Money comes first. Most of our viewers find it hard to bring revenue in it, find ways to make money.
Right.
Our president is a great example of how to make money. He knows how to make money. He can squeeze a dollar out of a rock. That's not a phrase, but I'm bringing it up. He can
somebody
make money.
Else's dollar.
He can pull money out your pocket before you know it. If you walk past him, if you on Pennsylvania Avenue walking down the street, past the White House, you may lose your money. Like, he's able to pull money out your pocket in ways you couldn't even understand. Whether it's the hotel he had that he's bringing forward dignitaries in, whether it's the fact that he can go to Mar-a-Lago and he forced the government to pay for the stay at Mar-a-Lago for security. He's finding ways to bring money. His son-in-law is trying to do a deal over in Palestine where they take the Palestinian land and turn it into a resort. His daughter's in China doing all kind of deals. He's finding ways to make money when most Americans are worried about putting food on the table. He's extracting mass amount of revenue from the country and from people in a way that is astonishing, and we look at it and be open-minded about how you do better yourself, not grift. There's people who are saying he's committing grift. Maybe he is. I would say that his eye isn't on politics. His eye isn't on making America great again. Is on how to make my family wealthy for generation in a way that most people don't think about.
Well, the one word that Trump uses over and over again, and his entourage, is unprecedented.
It is unprecedented.
And I can't think of a better. That's why it's so hard to describe him.
Yeah.
Because we really have never seen anything like it. As far as history tells, there's never been a person sitting in the White House who has profited more personally, including his family, than Trump and the Trump administration. Everywhere you turn, it's another way, whether it's Ivanka selling perfume in China or Jared selling lots on Gaza. I've been in the presence of some Israelis who are already talking about the houses they're going to build on Gaza as soon as they finish clearing out the Palestinians. It's in the Secret Service, the millions of dollars that's been paid while he takes his golf trip to Mar-a-Lago. I mean, it's just incredible. And the fact, the reason that he's able to presumably get away with it is because every utterance he makes on X, his platform, the media restates as though it is stated in earnest, that there's some sincerity to it, that there's some truth to it.
Not the media, even the foreign dignitary. There was an issue recently with Brazil where Trump wanted to put tariffs on Brazil. The Brazilian president found out via his website. It wasn't via reports from the dignitaries. Yeah, it was like, oh, we read online. We read on his site. we read it. The president like, oh, I thought it was fake news. I read it, and I wasn't sure if it was real or not. It was real. So the whole world knows our president does things in a way that's been contrary to how formality has gone for all of the U.S. existence for presidents and how we do things. They skip the government and they go straight to Trump and see what he wants. But I wanted to get into and see your opinion. As a way to defray from the issue of Epstein, there's Tulsi Gabbard, which is a former Democrat. I think she's from Hawaii. She was Democrat. She switched aisles. And now she's the Director of National Intelligence. She's made claims that President Barack Obama was colluding in an attempt to do a coup on the administration, which to me is a huge statement to make about a former sitting president, about a former president. To say that he wanted to take over government or do a coup in the current administration, I don't know how you say that with a straight face. And they had some kind of documentary evidence of proof. But my concern is, knowing the Trump administration, they may try to bring charges against the president, Barack Obama. They may try to file charges, even if it's not warranted. We've known them to file charges before that wasn't warranted, just to have things going forward. My concern is they'll take the extraordinary step to bring a suit against him or claim against him using the DOJ to say that him and other people in the DOJ were colluding to do a coup against the current administration.
Well, it's interesting. The real conundrum is there was a time when people could look to places like the Supreme Court and federal judges who have lifetime appointments. There was a time when you could look to them with some reasonable degree of confidence of at least getting a level playing field, of at least being in a venue where the facts weren't predetermined or prejudged. Well, we're not there anymore. The fact that Trump's appointments, not just to the Supreme Court, but of the federal trial court level, federal district courts, now the litmus test for any job in the Trump administration, including the judiciary, is, are you willing to kiss the ring?
Yeah.
Do you commit to me? Not, and even for the thousands of federal workers who now they have to rehire because that part of the government that they want to continue can't operate without the people who know how to operate it. So for them to get their job back, they got to take a new oath, not the standard oath to abide by and honor and respect the laws of the country and the Constitution, but you've got to commit never to utter or stay in the presence of anybody who utters a derogatory statement against the president. I mean, it's you can't. That's the basis of all of his lawsuits. You say that you're not American if you say anything against Trump. You're un-American. And so this Tulsi Gabbard thing, that we can expect no different. Pam Bondi, who is Trump's lawyer, I don't care what she may occupy the position of the Attorney General of the United States, but in every way possible, in every way feasible, she has indicated over and over again that she's Trump's lawyer. And just like the rest of his loyalists, she will say or talk about weaponizing the department. That was a favorite phrase. Biden weaponized all the charges against anybody who was a friend of Trump, not just Trump. It was because of Biden. Biden weaponized the judicial system. Biden weaponized the Department of Justice. Look at how they've weaponized the Department of Justice under Pam Bondi. Look at the Garcia, who they at first admitted that they wrongly deported him. Then they tried to backtrack on that and say, we made a mistake saying that. And they fired the lawyer who admitted in court that he had been wrongly deported. He's now on leave to Saskatchewan, some crazy place, if he still has a job, if he still has a job at all. And now they come back and say, well, okay, we admit again that we deported him wrongly, but as soon as he gets back, we're going to arrest him now because he's part of a ring to falsely transport illegal immigrants, of which they had. Now they've almost dropped the allegation that he was a member of MS-13 because every court where they made that allegation has concluded that they have absolutely no evidence of it, none whatsoever. And then after defying every court order that's looked at it, but causing his release, when they finally bring him back, they claim credit for having complied with the court orders, but they say the minute he reached U.S. soil, which they did do, he's locked up again. And until a couple of days ago, when a federal judge ordered him to be released, and he still hasn't been released because they have no intention of doing it. This administration not only one that will never ever admit it was wrong, something that I think Trump got from his old friend Roy Cohen, but they will never ever make a concession, a real concession towards liberty or anything that we look what Mike Johnson did yesterday, or was it the day before, when Congress was set to vote on the investigation of Epstein. 12 Republicans joined with the Democrats to continue the investigation. And he said, "No, I'm not going to allow that." He declared Congress in recess. Go home for the summer. This is not a democracy anymore. This is an autocracy. This is King Trump at his worst.
I'll say this. I think it's a democracy. The issue is the people we've elected have been shown to be weak. Tulsi Gabbard initially was Democrat, and she switched over because that's the way she got power and got more. We've seen people who are around, who even the Obama situation is the thing. They've done things in a way to diminish our systems, and I've said it a million times. It's not Trump and his administration. We have Congress, and Congress has been silent. They've done nothing. They've literally walked through everything he wanted to do. They've done. And the little bit of opposition from the Democrats has been so weak, we don't even know it exists. So it's not that it's a king and that we give fealty to him. The people, his checks and balances, aren't checking them for whatever reason, because they're afraid of not getting reelected, because they're afraid of not making money or whatever it may be. The people in court, our court system for years has been our saving grace, right? When politicians did things that were off the rails, particularly in terms of race, the court has been conscious, like, okay, guys, going too far, let's back it up. You guys don't control us. We have a job for life. You can't really intimidate us. We're gonna do what we want to do, and this is what's reasonable. We're trying to follow what the law says. And I wasn't a big fan of Scalia. I know people think he's the best jurist that we've ever had. And he's reasoned well and well written. I never was a fan. His reason to me was always spotty. It was very political in my mind. And Clarence Thomas the same way. But
he's the worst of the worst.
But you had a court where it was battling back and forth. Now, because of President Obama's inability to put people on the bench, which I lay at his feet actually.
Yeah.
They had people on the bench that believe it's not hard to get the decisions. They believed it already. Like everything they're doing now is what they said they would do before they became justices.
Look, Trump has John Roberts on speed dial. John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme, he has him on speed dial. Every decision that's come from the Supreme Court in Trump's favor has been as a result of this so-called emergency motion process. Mm-hmm. That where there's no public argument, there's no briefing, there's no appearance of counsel. They send it to him on Saturday night. About Sunday morning, he's got his order in hand, and it's the same six folks. The same. They call them so-called conservative. Conservative is a pseudonym for racist in many cases. But yeah, I know you disagree. but if it walks like a duck, it quacks and got webbed feet, I'm willing to call, and it's yellow, I'm gonna call it a duck. I'm gonna believe my lying eyes over what you say. But you not meaning you personally, yeah. But I mean over what the public the discourse may be. So he's got John Roberts on speed dial. When Roberts came out with that ruling that the president is immune from prosecution for anything that not just that he does within his official capacity, but anything that he contemplates doing within his official capacity or the effect of it. In other words, if as Trump said during the classified documents case, the documents became unclassified because I thought that that's what I wanted to do. And therefore, all I had to do was think it because I was president, and they became unclassified. Well, Roberts gave Trump a get out of jail free card, even more than a get out of jail free card. He gave him a card that says you never have to go in the first place. And Trump, and as people were warned when the Senate refused to act upon the congressional impeachment of Trump, twice impeached, they were warned that if you don't act on this related to the January 6th riot, the January 6th insurrection, by the way, all of those people, we all know he pardoned them all, even the ones who killed the Capitol Police. If they warned, if you don't hold him accountable for this, he's going to go hog wild, as they say. There'll be no limits. There'll be no stopping him. And we're seeing it. And we're seeing it every day played out in politics. But politics affects your pocketbook. Politics. Somebody has to pay for that $13 million. Somebody has to $13 trillion deficit that is added to. Somebody has to pay for the continuation of the tax cuts that he enacted in 2017, 98% of which was for the benefit of the rich and super rich. And guess who pays that? You, me, technician, and the rest of the world pay for it. And we pay for it in ways that we see over and over again. They talk about people having jobs. Now, you got to get, in order for you now to qualify for Medicaid, presumably, you have to go out and get a job that pays you minimum wage or less, and even if you have minor children, and the job doesn't pay enough to cover the cost of childcare. Yeah. And I mean, and people so ridiculous. I mean, what's the senator from South Carolina, Tillis, who said, look, I can't take this bullshit anymore. I quit. I'm not going to run because I'm not going to, in order to demonstrate my loyalty to Trump, continue to vote in a way that destroys the lives of the people who elected me.
But it's cop out. You can always say, I'm not voting for it and vote otherwise. You don't have to quit and leave it and walk away. You can say, no, we ain't voting for that. Well, they win by very thin margins. You jump over the aisle. The thing is, when you're in Congress and you're in politics and you're one of the people who are standout, you have power. You can control the narrative and get things in and out of bills by saying, I'm not voting for it if you don't put this in it. You can get things for your constituents that way. That's how politics works. Walking away saying, give my ball, I'm going home, it doesn't really help you.
Well, then you don't get to have your private bathroom anymore, and you don't get to walk through. You don't have to go. You don't get to sit in meetings where they refer to you as the gentleman from Ohio or the gentlelady from Arkansas. And you don't keep the power and the prestige of the office, and more importantly, you don't keep the opportunity to ask other people for money legally, and they give it, depending on what committee you sit on. So it's clear to me that every Republican that there is in the House nearly every Republican puts their personal gain, their personal interest over that of the people who elected them, which is why the Republicans stopped holding town hall meetings. They said, do not subject yourself to questioning from the people who elected you, because the truth will hurt you and the lie will be revealed. So just don't have it.
What do you think? So the administration position is we can save you from the deficit by doing more tariffs and getting, whether it's Brazil more recently, but China and France and whoever else. What do you think about the tariff situation with the big beautiful bill, and whether the tariffs will actually bring more revenue in the country and get things corrected, as Trump would say, for the trade imbalance?
Well, first of all, Trump doesn't even understand what a tariff is. He still tells the public that a tariff is paid by foreign governments. It's not. Tariffs are paid by the importers, and the importers of foreign goods pass that along as much as they can to the end user, which is you and me. So the tariffs end up being reflected in higher cost. In fact, there was it Microsoft or somebody that threatened to publish a list, a breakdown of how much their services or how much their products would cost the consumer once these tariffs take effect, and they bullet them into not publishing the list. So tariffs are not paid. And then the other thing is that you have to recognize, if companies that are created in this country are moved a part of their operation someplace else, it's because of the same reason why they went into business in the first place, to make a profit. It's because by moving to someplace else, they can lower the cost of the production and increase the amount of profit that they can split among the owners. It's all profit. It's all profit motive. And the idea that that I've got a plant in China or South Korea or any place else, that by posing a tariff, I'm going to relocate that plant back in the United States and incur that additional cost and the risk that consumers will be able to pay that higher price because of that additional cost, is absolute fanciful. It's a lie. It's all part of Trump's make-believe world.
We had planned to have a guest today, Harrington, and he's a business owner. I would like to hear his opinion about not only tariffs, but the idea that at some point there's an end to money, right? There's an end to what people can pay for. So at some point, the American citizens aren't able to pay for anything. I mean, taxes will increase the value of things. The tariffs will increase the actual cost of things. People's salaries aren't going up. People's income is going up, right, and more people are losing jobs. So at some point, it will be. I recall being a kid, and I would leave school, and I walk past, and it's a sub shop in Cherry Hill, and they had the best chicken, and not chicken so much, but Western fries.
Right.
Now, if I've been at school all day and I played basketball after school, I'm starving. I would always walk past the store and smell the fries. They smell so good. I had no money, so as good as they smell, I wasn't able to buy it.
Right.
So I walk past, I would look in and see the kids with money to get some, and keep on walking. At some point, the American consumer is going to keep on walking because they won't have the actual financial means to buy things, which starts a trickle backwards in terms of towards recession and towards downturn. But when you can't afford to pay for things, everything comes backwards, whether it's the actual cost that you're paying for things, whether what you're buying for your family, whether discretionary income, whether you're going to Amazon buying stuff, whether you're going to Walmart buying stuff, it all gets pulled back. And when that happens, then we start seeing things get affected differently. Well, there's no money coming in the market, and that means no money for taxes, which it's a cycle that goes backwards and backwards and backwards. And I think we're heading towards that now. And I'm not sure that the tariffs are going to save us.
Well, the tariffs are not going to save us. And you're talking about inflation, but that's also why you see McDonald's in England and Italy and France. In other words, the American market is just part of the market for global companies, international companies. And so the question is, what happens if the market share in America goes down, if they can offset it with increasing sales someplace else? And the answer is not a thing. They'll be concerned about it, about the reduction in their profits, but we're not talking about hurting them. We're talking about a reduction in profits. The same thing, we saw this with tobacco. When, the clamor in this country, the hypocrisy of the clamor, and I'll explain that in a minute, but the clamor in this country to get folks to stop smoking. Well, that was going on here, but Philip Morris the sales were increasing everywhere else in the world. So yeah, they could play the game here like they're in favor of non-smoking and all of that, but because they can afford, because the sales are going up elsewhere. They really weren't being harmed that much, except their public image was what they were trying to protect more so than their bottom line, which they could always increase someplace. Well, with the same thing with everything else. And not only that, but quite frankly, you got to tell the truth about so-called American companies. Most of the companies that the average person thinks are American are not owned by America at all. They're owned by foreign interests. Budweiser, the king of beers, is not an American company. It's owned by the Chinese. Yeah. So I think it's Chinese or whoever it is. It's not American. I'm sure of that. So there are many companies that we believe are American that aren't American owned at all. The largest oil refinery in the United States and Texas is owned by Saudi Arabia. So that, in other words, we're not dealing with an economy that can't be isolated anymore. There's really no such thing as the quote American economy if you try to define it by means of talking about companies that are American owned.
Well, you can define the American economy very easily. The American economy is defined by the fact that we are consumers. So what people get all over the world, they want to sell here, whether it's the Germans with cars, whether it's the Koreans with cars, or Koreans with phones, whether it's the Japanese with cars. It's all kind of ways that we actually go about being part of the economy, and we buy things. China loves America. There's a trade imbalance with China and America because the reality is China sells a lot of things in America. They sell all their cheap goods to America, and we buy it. We buy it in droves. The reason China was able to grow to be the dragon they are now was because they sold cheap goods to America for the better part of 20, 30 years. They had people making $1 a day, or even less than that, working in sweatshops to make goods for America, whether it's cheap goods or even Nikes.
To what end? They're not selling it to America. They're selling it to American companies who want to reduce their costs so they can increase their profits. That's the whole idea. They aren't attacking America. If American it's like alcohol liquor stores in the neighborhood. People clamor, we got too many liquor stores. Well, you know what's going to make those liquor stores go away? Stop buying them. Stop buying the liquor, and I guarantee you those stores will disappear overnight.
I think the issue is it's not that China is selling to American companies. American companies use the labor. They're being paid for a service. We say the American companies are not quite American. The reality is, and that what do America have for the economy? The reality is the economy for America is set based on the fact that we are consumers and we consume at all costs. And we go out our way to consume. As a result, we've made other economies wealthy. Hence, that's what Trump is doing. Trump thing is they want to sell in America. Brazil want to sell in America. China want to sell in America. Korea want to sell in America. Everybody wants to sell here because we buy all the things and all the stuff. But it's a trickle effect. Once you start having a situation where one party is actually we're selling and they're selling, we're buying. Once we run out of money, what happens? We can't buy.
But my point is, we're talking about voluntary transactions that were entered into not at the point of a barrel of a gun, but at the fold of a dollar bill. These are transactions that were entered into freely by companies, foreign and domestic, for the purpose of increasing their profit. The world economy is ultimately based upon consumers. They don't sell companies. The business transactions are very minimal. The end user in every economy that you can name, for the most part, are the people. The 330 billion people in this country, and the billions of people around the world, those are the end users. The idea is to produce something that they're willing to buy. Now, there is a question in every one of those countries when the people who are willing to buy don't have the money to do it. Now, for someone, in order to address that, there are two ways to address it. One is to provide a mechanism where they can have more money, higher wages, higher income. But a better way that was invented some years ago was to let them use your money, and by a mechanism called credit. Don't worry about it. Make the minimum monthly payment. You'll be fine. And if you end up making the minimum monthly payment for the life of the loan, you end up paying 10 times the cost of the item in the first place. But people were tricked by that because everybody has a desire to enjoy during their lifetime those things that we say should be available. And so credit was very fashionable. Credit was inductive. It was seductive. This economy lasted for many, many years on that basis. But credit's dried up now.
I think the issue is the door closes, right? So you have the door closed, and it gets closer and closer and closer. When people don't have the means to pay, you're right, consumers the end goal, but they're not selling to people in Uganda. They're not selling to people in Tanzania. They're selling to people in America and China. Those are the two biggest markets that they have actual disposable income to buy things. China don't really have it. They just have so many people where they can say, hey, I got 1.5 billion people. Even if a tenth of them have the money, that's a lot of people. Europe don't have the money. They sell to places where people have the means. The reason America is revolutionary in terms of tech, because we have companies that can sell things to people who can buy it. People buying Microsoft Office subscriptions in America, they're not buying the same subscription in other parts of the world. They don't have money to pay for it. A good portion of the world is what they call the third world, which means they don't have the means to buy all the shit, as so to speak. So as a result, they're in the economy, but they're not really in the economy. That's why they can go to Africa and they can use them for mining, and they have people doing labor work, but they extract things out. They don't put anything in.
But they're selling in those. These companies are selling in the foreign countries. They're not selling at the same price point as here.
But
they adjust the price. They adjust the price to reflect the income of the people there, because the price point is really it's a margin. The margins are so wide. But have you ever wondered? Do people ever wonder why the cost of drugs in India is the same? If a tablet costs 10 cents in India, that same tablet costs $5 in the U.S. or Canada or in some other countries. The same drug manufactured by the same company, so there's wide difference in price. It's based upon the ability of the people there to buy it at that price. That doesn't mean they're not making money at that price. They're making money because they wouldn't be producing it at all if they weren't. So it's a question of when we, just like we talk about increasing tariffs and the cost, why do these companies pass on the cost of tariffs to the consumer? Not because they can't absorb it themselves and still make money, they just won't make as much money. So the reason that the tariffs are passed on is to retain the profit margin. And the profit margin, greed, is what drives the economy. And the economy, at least in my opinion, the so-called capitalist, is based upon getting something for nothing. And that something is normally cheap labor.
So you mentioned companies for pharmaceuticals, and that's a good point. The American consumer supports the R&D for pharmaceuticals. We support the funds to research and develop. That's how things work. I mean, they go in knowing it. They go and know, okay, America going to pay $1 billion for this, and we'll figure out how to get everybody else. We'll make our profit here. Everything else we get here is just pocket money, and we'll figure it out. That's a lot of things. Now, it's not only pharmaceuticals. There's many industry where the American consumer pays above and beyond. I'll say this: in my position is we have hundreds of billionaires. Most people can't count to $1 billion. We have hundreds of billionaires in a place where most people aren't wealthy. Right. Most Americans in their lifetime won't make $10 million. Most may not even make $1 million in their lifetime. Correct. So we have people who are billionaires and they run companies, they own companies, and they're able to amass wealth in a way that's obscene. I mean, I think last year we talked about how many the top 5 or 10 billionaires in America have more money than a person could even conceive of, because they're able to amass wealth through companies. They're able to extract wealth out and pull it out. I think you're right. The idea is that companies can sustain the tariffs and still keep things the same. That's what they want. There has to be, in order for there to be a recorrection that Trump wants to do or people want to do, there has to be a push for companies to have the CEO make less money, right? You can't be a situation where you're the CEO of Amazon and you're worth, I don't know how many, you're Jeff Bezos worth $100 billion and your lowest paid employee is making $12 an hour. Like, the numbers are too far apart in terms of how much you make and what happens. Because there's a lot sloshing around. If Jeff Bezos had $20 billion less, he wouldn't feel it, but the employees would feel it. If that was given to the employees.
You're almost getting close to talk about socialism.
So people say socialism. I don't think people know socialism means.
It means socialism is anti-American. Socialism is anti-American.
It's fine for every place in the world except when you mention here. Other countries that we look at and we're black people love going to Dubai. Oh, Dubai is so great. The people who are from Dubai, they don't have to pay bills. The government take care of them. You're going over there and spend money. The government takes care of them. No one says a word. All through the East, the government take care of their people. That's what they're there for.
Well, listen, we give $10 million a day to Israel where higher education is free. but we can't afford to educate our own kids.
Healthcare is free.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
so we don't mind other countries having support for their people, and we oh, that's great they're doing that in Canada. That's great they're
even
doing
if
it
we
in
pay
Israel.
for it.
If we pay for it, but
Right.
but somehow the people here, the poor people here, have been demonized so much that we think it's a bad word. No, I'm not socialist and interested in imagination, but I do believe government is there for people, and it has to be some kind of change where it got to be a cap on things. If government gets an antitrust, if we think it's unreasonable to have one company have too much power in the industry because the price controls are off, then government can say, hey, you can't make $100 billion and your other employee making $12 an hour. Like it's outrageous that you're not giving the value to the company, to the shareholders, where you worth 100 and however billion, and the person who's doing the actual work is making $12 an hour and in debt.
Well, that was the mantra, the ethos for the creation of organized labor.
Yes,
that was exactly not just in this country, but that was a storming of the Bastille. And organized labor said that the people who got boots on the ground, the people who actually do perform the work, deserve a bigger share of the return from the use of those resources. And organized labor, although it's years and even today faces considerable opposition, but the fact of the matter is, history proves that only through a concerted collective action does labor really have any voice. Individually, you're minnow in the sea of whales. Collectively, you can be the biggest fish in the pond. And that's why organized labor was so successful in the early years. Unfortunately, organized labor, in my judgment, has become as highly politicized as every other institution in this country. By the way, for those of you who are waiting for Bob Harrington to come on the line, I did get a call from him a second ago. I couldn't answer it because it would be answering online, but I suspect that he ran into some of the same kind of technological issues that we had, which is why we were 3-4 minutes getting started this morning. We will bring Mr. Harrington on at another date and time, and we will actually have him here in the studio where we won't have to involve the issues of remote connection and that sort of thing. And we do apologize for the fact that you were waiting to hear from a successful business person in Baltimore City and didn't get to hear his voice today. Tune in at another time, and indeed he will be with us. And from time to time, quite frankly, we will have other guests who will talk about in very much as detail as we can within the context of 1 hour, the economic issues affecting the Baltimore, and particularly the Black community in Baltimore. We hope to, as we go forward, to be able to offer sponsorships to some of those businesses. We hope to provide for them an opportunity to let the public know of the availability of various goods and services, because quite frankly, we're not that is, Hassan and I are not soliciting your contributions. We're not asking you to give money to it, because if we don't do it, God's going to take us home, and neither one of us has a private jet that we need to upgrade. But the fact remains that that this show does cost money. The production of it does cost money, and the fact is that to this day, this is something that we are doing really only by desire and our love for the community. We're paying for it 100% out of our pocket, and have no problem continuing to do that, except that we think that there is a way that we can encourage and support other minority businesses to participate, and that just like any other advantageous thing that you might do in the course of conducting your business, you ought to help defray the cost of the thing that's helping. And hopefully the show Money, Power, and Politics will be on your list of assets. We're nearing the end of our show today. We started late, and we may cut it a little short, but I don't want to preempt at least one discussion that I have that has nothing to do necessarily with business, and the son may have something else. I read an article about a 9-year-old child who died at an amusement park, Hershey Park in Pennsylvania. As I understand from what I read, the child was being held in arms by the father and they were on a water slide. And apparently the father lost the grip on the child. The child flew from his arms and was killed when the child hit the ground. And I got to tell you, that rings a very personal story for me. When my kids were young, we I, I rented a mobile home, and we took the kids to the water, to SeaWorld, I think it was, outside of Disney World in Florida. And they have, at that time anyway, and probably still do, a tremendously high water slide in Water World, I guess it was called back then. And my youngest daughter went up, climbed up the stairs to go down, and she was kind of afraid. So I said, look, let me go first to show you it's okay. So I did. And nothing happened. And then I'm at the bottom, and I realized there were other people coming, and she wasn't there. I rushed up to the top, and come down again. She had got stuck in the slide. And if someone larger than me had come along, they would have unwillingly knocked her off the slide entirely, and she may have wound up like this 9-year-old. So those things that are intended for fun can sometimes result in very tragic consequences. Since that day, I've never allowed, because my kids are not kids anymore. That youngest John I told you about is now a judge, and her older sister owns a charter school. But I had grandchildren, and when my daughter tells me about going to an amusement park, the first thing I say, don't go on the water slide. I don't care what they do. Water slides, trampolines, swings scare the heck out of me, even to this day. Hassan?
I can't follow up with that. I can't follow up with that. I have some ideas, but I can't. I'll say this, and so I'm on a much lighter note. I'm dealing with current media and current news on the legal aspect of it. There's a situation that goes on where people who are wealthy are sued for all kinds of things. There was a suit against the commentator Shannon Sharpe, former tight end. He played for the Ravens. He was sued for rape and sexual abuse and sexual assault. He recently settled his suit with his accuser for some undisclosed amount of money. And the accuser's attorney, Busby, he's a well-known attorney going after. It seems like he only go after black men, but maybe he go after anybody. He went after Puffy, he went after Jay-Z. I feel like every case he has is against black entertainers, but that's a different conversation. But he came out saying they settled the suit. And he mentioned that between Shannon Sharpe and the woman, it was consensual. It was a consensual relationship that was tumultuous. That's a far cry from saying you raped me, right? And I don't know how you pull that back, right? So having the allegation that you abuse a woman or a child are things you can't escape. So when you sue someone for that, and then when you settle, no, it was consensual, and we settled and we walking away, it seems disingenuous. Now we know as lawyers legally you do things for the purpose of getting the settlement done. So that may be something they said because they wanted to settle and they didn't really want to fight it out in court. But it's a weird thing that you have a statement released to the public about a sexual abuse case. And typically, when it happens, you pay it. Kobe had a sexual assault, civil case and criminal case. When it settled, it just settled. They didn't get into details of what the settlement was. He paid some money and walked away. Almost always, you very rarely see a statement given by the person who prevailed as to what happened and the settlement happened that way. That was weird to me. Legally, I wasn't sure why they would have done it that way versus being quiet and quietly dismissing the charges.
Well, the real question is whether or not during the course of negotiations of the settlement, whether there was negotiation over the issue of confidentiality, and either there wasn't, or the plaintiff, the accuser, was unwilling to agree to it, and so was free to talk about it in whatever manner they wanted to. And because it's a settlement, there's no penalty for saying something afterwards that's inconsistent with even the legal basis for initiating the action in the first place.
I've never had a case where I let my client reach an agreement if it wasn't confidential. We're not agreeing.
Well, no, if it's all about how much about risk aversion and how much does it cost, and are you willing to throw a dice? Are you willing to risk that a jury may emotionally, uh, nearly unrelated to the facts and the evidence, may for emotional reasons come up with such a large figure that it would just be astronomical, and so to avoid that, you settle, you think, for what you hope would be a substantially lesser amount. And in Baltimore City, for many years, and to a lesser extent now because there's no insurance to cover it, all the lead paint cases, and I've been involved in many of them. The lead paint cases, the plaintiff's lawyers referred to it as black gold, because the plaintiff, in every case, you would think that the only kids that consumed lead in Baltimore City were black. you would think that the paint didn't chip in the dilapidated housing that was occupied by the majority of poor people in Baltimore City, which was not black folk, it was white folk all along. But I've never ever seen a case brought on behalf of a white child. I'm sure there must have been. I've just never seen them, and I haven't either. Actually, I'd say it wasn't part of my daily practice in law, but I haven't seen one. And as I say, the attorneys on the plaintiff side now. The insurance companies put a dollar figure on settlement based upon the measure of excess lead in the blood as measured in the blood of the child, and almost never ever forced the case to go to trial. Because they were afraid that essentially what was expected to be an irrational black jury that wouldn't like insurance companies and pay no attention to the evidence would issue a verdict or a judgment that would bankrupt them. And so even in cases where there was little to no evidence, they settled along those grounds, at least until all the money ran out because there came a time when there was no more insurance coverage available because they stopped insuring vacant houses and they stopped insuring for lead paint issues in Baltimore City. But anyway, so the idea is, I used to say bad clients make bad lawyers. I think they go together. Really. So again, this is Money, Power, and Politics. Be with us next week. Do you know who our guest is next week? We want to bring Robert Harrington in, but we may have already somebody scheduled for next week.
I'm not sure, but we'll post online our guest next week before the week.
All right. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. If you need to reach Hassan, he'll give you his number, my number, if you need to reach me for any reason. And I may not talk to you, but 410-456-8606.
And certainly call my office, 443-842-3058, and take care, guys.
See you next week. Bye-bye. Money, Power, and Politics. Enough really is enough.